Happy Friday, Junior, to all those that celebrate. We got a jam-packed show for you today. Guest co-host Saul Bookman in studio. That's right, guys, in studio today, as well as a little bit of Mason White interview, Arizona baseball preview, and some Wildcats in the association. We'll talk about Ben Mathurin and TJ McConnell's big performance last night in Game 3 of the NBA Finals. All that and more coming up in 30 seconds on the AZ Wildcats podcast. Welcome on in, guys, to the AZ Wildcats podcast. Not quite sure where that music cut off so abruptly, but it says the sound effects are on here. But I'm Damon Fairall. We are here in lovely PHNX HQ2 in downtown Phoenix in the great state of Arizona, and I am joined by my co-host today, Saul Bookman. So, Saul, it's been a minute since you've been on the show. I think since basketball season. How are we feeling, and how are you doing for the people at home?
Good. Just got off a flight from Philadelphia, and for those of you who have kept count, you know how much I hate Salt Lake City. Philadelphia is now my number one least favorite city in the country. It's so bad. It's as bad as watching like anything ASU. There you go.
Yeah, we're gonna need to dive into this a little bit. Could you give me, what are your top 3 worst cities? Top 3 cities you hate the most.
Okay, so Philly's number 1, Salt Lake City's number 2. Number 3, I'm going to go San Antonio. Yeah, not a big San Antonio fan. I lived there for like 7 years, and I'm just not a fan. So I gave it a shot. Not my favorite.
I think San Antonio, I've said this to people before, I think I would get bored living there, but it's a cool place to go for like a week or like 3 days and go chill on the river walk, get super drunk for a little bit, maybe go watch Arizona beat Oklahoma in the Alamo Bowl like I did last 2 Decembers ago. But I don't hate San Antonio, but I could definitely see it getting a little, because like if you live there, what is the Riverwalk doing for you? I mean, you're never going down there.
No, especially I was in the military, and most of the time we avoided the Riverwalk because all the airmen, when they graduate, would be down there, and you just didn't want to bump into them and talk to, like, it just wasn't something. So it was always like you had to avoid the Riverwalk, and then there's not really much else to do. There's a couple theme parks, but it's just not my thing. So, whatever. But outside of that, I think, I think Arizona is coming off of and continuing one of the better athletic years of all time in school history, which is fantastic. Yeah. I know we're going to talk a little baseball. We're going to talk a little bit of basketball news. And then on top of that, the NBA and our 2 guys are just killing it in the finals. So, I mean, everything's on the up and up right now.
Yeah, it certainly is. And you mentioned that like this really good sports calendar for Arizona, where it feels like a lot of these programs are either improving and gaining momentum, or they're at least sustaining what they've already built for the most part. And it's remarkable that we could even say that with the football season that we had this year, because I feel like that trickles down to every, feeling that we have as Arizona fans. Like, you remember that football season, given that football is such a big portion of like what we care about as Arizona fans. And it's hard to get that out of your head. But at the same time, baseball's been really successful. Basketball had a great turnaround after a really rough non-conference, and I think gives you a lot to be inspired about and motivated about going into next season, the second season in the Big 12. But softball, while they didn't make it out of their regional, they did make postseason play, and women's basketball, like Becky Burke, feels like she's got this program moving in the right direction. So I think as Arizona fans in general, we're in a decent spot, but man, we got to figure out this football thing.
Yeah, I definitely feel like football was the outlier amongst all that, and maybe women's basketball to a degree. But listen, I hope they can turn it around. I actually have a freezing cold take for later on today that's kind of football relevant. Well, it is football relevant, so I'm gonna put myself on blast for some bad takes that I had. But hopefully this year the takes will be saucy and they will be good.
Yes, Saul,
like the Wendy's nuggets.
Yes, of course, the spicy nuggets. Saul, his by his benevolent grace, gave me a Frosty take of his own today so that I didn't have to go search through and find my own Frosty take. That will be happening in the future weeks, so don't worry about that. I had a Frosty take on D-backs that we played today, but thankfully Saul kept me. Last week we went with Eric Ruby's Frosty cold take, Saul, of saying where he looks into the camera, he gets very emotional, he pauses and he says, "Not only will Koa Pete be a Sun Devil, he will be a Sun Devil legend."
Teardrop.
And as Eric said today on the PHNX Sun Devils show, the transfer portal is a thing these days. So, and we just saw Aisa Silva, Arizona softball player, transfer to ASU. I guess you could say crazier things have happened, but nothing's crazier than Koa Pete staying for a second year in college basketball.
Yeah, that would be wild.
Yeah, it absolutely would. But yes, we so far 2 Frosty cold take segments and none from me or Kevin. Does feel a little bit fishy. Feels like we're cooking the books a little bit, but we'll have plenty of takes of ours to reminisce on in the future. But Saul, without further ado, I want to get into it here. Yesterday I spoke with Arizona star player Mason White, and Mason obviously gearing up to play Coastal Carolina tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. First pitch, and Mason, hometown kid. He's a Tucson kid. He went to Sal Point, brought them their first state championship in baseball. 2 years after I lost in the state championship game. That kind of,
ouch.
Yeah, that hurts a little bit.
Ouch.
But then, of course, he's the first person in his family, a family tree of 3 generations now, to make the College World Series himself. I was looking, I didn't see the years that his grandfather played, but I looked at the years that Mason White's dad played at U of A baseball. And his first year in 1993, Arizona made the regional and had a top 10 team in the country under Jerry Kindle. And they fell a little bit short in that regional. The next 3 years was really kind of the downfall of the Jerry Kindle era at Arizona, where the team just kind of fell off of a cliff and was not very good. Mason, obviously, checking some bucket list things there for his family, and really cool moment for him to make it here. So, well, let's hear more from Mason White, regarding, just making it this far to the College World Series and what it means to him and his family. Coming off a perfect game, second team All-American selection, as well as being named the most valuable player in the Eugene Regional, beating North Carolina in the Chapel Hill Super Regional. We got Arizona's own shortstop, Mason White. Mason, how are we doing today, and how are we feeling about making the College World Series?
Good. We're super pumped. Just super excited to be here. It was a crazy series to get here, but we're finally here, so we're ready to roll.
Yeah, you mentioned the craziness of the series. Obviously, very loud game one, right? And a lot of Arizona fans, I'm sure, had a little bit of concern, but less concern than a lot of people in the country did. People were like, this is just a blowout. Might as well not even show up for game 2, right? And you guys buckled down, bared down, if you will, and won those final 2 games. So how was kind of that emotional roller coaster of losing that first game by so many runs and then being able to, kind of grind out those next 2 wins and make the College World Series?
Yeah, we knew the first game was not in our favor. They put a bunch of runs up on the board, and we didn't really do too much. We knew that we swung it well, though. We had a bunch of good at-bats off one of the best guys in the country. Just a bunch of lineouts and long flyouts, and couldn't get the big hit when we needed it. But we knew that was going to prepare us and help us for day 2. So we showed up to day 2 on Saturday. We were super just into it. We knew this was a do or die type game, and we knew we were swinging the bats well. So we just do that, and once we won the game, we knew we got one more game to play. So played that game on Sunday, and it worked out for us.
You're obviously a hometown kid, and your dad played for Arizona baseball. Your grandfather played for Arizona baseball. You have history within this program, but you are the first one in your family to ultimately make it to Omaha. So kind of just what does that mean for you and just your family in general? I'm sure you had some conversations with your dad and your grandfather about just how special this moment was for your family.
Yeah, they didn't get to play in Omaha, so I've watched every College World Series I've been alive for that I can remember, I've watched it. So just being the first one to get here, the 2 of them, it's huge. It's really cool, and I'm glad they get to come and watch me play here. So I'm super excited to get to share that with them.
Yeah, what does it mean to do that for your hometown team? The team that you obviously, it's been storied. You you were, 8 years old when Arizona won in 2012. You were watching all of those games, devastated in 2016 when Coastal Carolina, which we'll talk about here in a second, ended up beating Arizona in the final 2 games of that series. But, like you've been a big time fan of this program, going to games for your entire life. So what does it just mean from that angle of things? Like this team has always meant everything to you, and you finally got to that kind of that pinnacle of the sport, if you will.
Yeah, I grew up in the ballpark watching the Cats play, and I've been raised through this program with my dad and grandpa playing there. They know a lot of people who've played there as well, and so this is the only program I've identified with my whole life. So growing up, all I wanted to do was play here and go to Omaha with this team because I grew up watching that. So to finally do it, it's surreal because I imagined it a million times and dreamt of it, but now that it's a reality, it's really cool to be in those shoes.
You had that kind of emotional moment where you stepped away from the team when everybody was celebrating, and after that Game 3 win in Chapel Hill, what was just kind of going through your mind when you kind of kneeled down there and just got emotional for a second?
Yeah, I was just imagining the scenario of clinching the Omaha berth, winning a super regional throughout the last few weeks, I guess you'd say. And then when we were finally in that bottom of the ninth inning, just replaying it through my mind, like what's this going to feel like? Like, what's this? Like, we're so close. Like, how can we close this thing out? Because we know we got Pluto on the mound and everything, but like the North Carolina's a good team. So when we got the first out, got the second out, and then finally the third out, it was like, wow, we did it. Like, we closed this thing out. We're going to Omaha. So we're still playing, and that's all I wanted to do was continue to play with this team. So it was just kind of an emotional roller coaster throughout that whole series, but then it was finally over. I was like, thank God, like we are getting to play more baseball.
Yeah, you mentioned Tony Pluta. He's up for Stopper of the Year, and I'm sure that you guys just have tons of confidence when that guy's on the mound with the lead. So just kind of, what's going through your head when Tony Pluta's pitching?
When I know that Tony gets in the game, be it the 7th or the 9th, I know that, okay, like we're in a good spot. Like, we're going to close this thing out. So my whole thing going through a game is like for our pen and starters to do a great job, but just get the ball to Tony with the lead. If we get the ball to Tony with the lead, we're going to close this thing out because that's what his job is, and that's what he's been doing for us all year.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier to me, Mason, that, this was always a dream of yours to play for this program and reach these heights. I don't, I would love to hear more about, your kind of your story of your recruitment, but I don't think that was necessarily always a reality, right? Like, it wasn't until Coach Hale took over that you really started being recruited to come to Arizona. So I guess just kind of, can you detail that recruitment process a little bit? Like, what was it like? How many conversations were you having with Arizona before Coach Hale? And then kind of what was that recruitment like once he took over?
Yeah, so Coach Dave Lawn was an assistant of the old staff, so he was an assistant at Jay Johnson. And so I got no looks. No one called out to me, reached out. No one came watch me play. Then it was the summer of my junior year. Going into my senior year, I was at a tryout for area code, and Coach Dave Lawn saw me play there, and he called Jay and said, like, hey, like, we need to get this guy on the phone. You need to talk to him. Jay went to LSU 3 days later, I'm pretty sure, later that week. So I wasn't sure if I was still talking to Arizona. So Dave reached out to me a week and a half so later after Chip had gotten the job. So Chip was now hired. Dave was held on to as an assistant, but there was only them two. They were the only two coaches left. And we set up a little workout at South Point. Chip came with Dave, and they watched me take ground balls, take BP, and then offered me that night. So I committed pretty much instantly as soon as I got it because I knew this is what I wanted to do, and I knew this is my best option going into my senior year. And I didn't look back from that because I knew they trusted me after what they had seen, and I knew that I would work out in this program.
And with that kind of belief that Coach Hale and Dave Lawn as well instilled in you, what does it mean to, be a part of Coach Hale's first, trip to Omaha and his first, really taste of postseason success in general?
Yeah, it means the absolute world that the only big time Division I program and Division I coach that took a chance on me was Chip, and to get him to be a part of the team that got him to Omaha first is it's insane. Like it's really cool to be a part of that, and we all feel that being on the field as we're playing for Chip. Like he's got our back, we got his back. Like we're gonna do this thing for us, and we're gonna do it for him because he's one of us. He's not like a guy that is mean and doesn't like his players. He absolutely loves us, and he feels like he's a player too. And so he's just the man, and we all just want to succeed for him.
And I have to go here, and unfortunately, it scars all Arizona fans. And I know at your core, you are an Arizona fan. Coastal Carolina, the first game here in Omaha for Arizona baseball. How are we feeling about playing a team that took a chunk out of you when you were a child still, and I'm sure left you a little bit emotionally damaged?
Yeah, it's really cool because I watched that whole series. Super huge fan of that group that was on that team that
Yeah.
year. Crumpos, our strength guy, was on the bench for all those games, so he was here with the team. But being my first game in Omaha, playing against them is almost like I'm stepping onto the field with that team. It'll feel like I know it's not the same coaches, not the same players, but I remember watching on TV. So stepping into that atmosphere is going to be really surreal. So I'm super excited for it.
He is second team All-American, conference tournament player of the year, Mason White, second all-time leader in home runs. The accolades go on and on and on. We appreciate you, Mason, for taking the time, and good luck on Friday for your guys' first game in the College World Series.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
That was Arizona star Mason White and Saul. I really thought that the most interesting part of that interview, for me at least, was the portion about him getting recruited to Arizona, talking kind of about the lack of interest that he got from Jay Johnson. I know this is something that we've talked about as Arizona fans a lot with Sal Point in particular, which is you could throw a rock and hit the high school.
From the campus.
Yeah, you absolutely could walk there from the camp. I've done it before. When I was a freshman and I didn't have a car before a Friday night football game, I think I walked down. It wasn't a fun walk, but I did do the walk. But yeah, it's such a short drive. It's so close in proximity, and yet for some odd reason, Jay Johnson really didn't put that much effort into bringing Mason and keeping him in Tucson. But it seemed like maybe they were getting something in the works there in terms of maybe finally getting his recruitment started at Arizona. And then Jay Johnson obviously makes that move to LSU and kind of erases that all clean, leaves it up in the air for Mason. He doesn't know anymore whether or not Arizona's even recruiting him.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's a lot of factors there. I mean, obviously, him not getting at least a look is kind of egregious, especially considering where Mason White is now in program history, obviously. But you don't know the kind of player. I'm not trying to defend Jay Johnson, but what I will say is you don't know the kind of player he was at that point, especially before your junior year. Still got a lot of development left to go. We're talking about after your sophomore season. Are you going to be good enough? Do you have, those intangibles? Or do you have what Arizona's looking for and Jay Johnson's looking for specifically? Because Jay Johnson is kind of picky with the players that he goes after, right? So I can kind of see why something could fall through the cracks to that degree. But hey, listen, it was our good fortune, and now he's a Wildcat. Who knows if Jay Johnson was on the trail, if he would have ended up being able to convince Mason White to go out there. It doesn't matter because he's a Wildcat. This is his dream school. It all worked out for a reason, and now he's leading this team to another 19th College World Series in program history. And hopefully, retribution will be afoot at some point during this College World Series, because I know we all would love for Arizona to find its way to take on LSU. So
yeah, eliminating Jay Johnson would be a sweet victory, man.
That would be so sweet, especially if you beat Coastal Carolina and then beat LSU. Oh,
just the Reaper knocking down the door of all of our greatest enemies in life. But Michael puts here in the chat, it's an interesting, I think, and it's a good point. Like, college baseball recruiting is so difficult, right? Because a lot of the top tier guys, the guys that you're like, hell yeah, we got this guy to commit to us. Well, now he's the 15th overall pick by the, Seattle Mariners in the amateur draft. And then they sign automatically. So you have to recruit for, the players that you're going to lose to the MLB draft. You have to recruit for the players that you're losing on your own team. But I think that baseball recruiting does start pretty young. Like, a lot of times these kids are committing when they're like freshmen, sophomores in high school. Mason was a junior and he was uncommitted. And I think it just goes to show that he was kind of holding out for that bigger school to come give him some attention. And finally it came in the form of his own hometown team, and the rest is history, right? So
baseball recruiting, outside of football recruiting, I would say baseball recruiting is more difficult than just about any other sport, because at least in football recruiting, you have position coaches and you have so many coaches on a football staff. In baseball, you don't. You have like 6, 7. And you got to recruit a team of 27, and you got to go around the country to find the best pitchers and fielders and outfielders. And it's just so complex. And, can he hit? There's so many tools to a player in baseball that you have to account for. And being able to not only, look at a kid's potential, but kind of forecast where they could be in your program 2, 3, 4 years down the road, man, that's got to be really, really difficult. So, hey, props to this coaching staff for finding them and bringing them in right away and not even wasting any time. It's definitely been to our benefit. And listen, they're in the College World Series for a reason, and Mason White is a big reason why. Yeah,
another dynamic of baseball recruiting that is, has been of the past but will change here in the next season is you only had 11.7 scholarships for those 27 players, and you had to divide it up in a way that made those guys accept what the scholarship that they were getting versus another school that might have offered them a bigger scholarship. They are now moving to 34 scholarships in total. It should, I think that's long overdue. That should have been a thing for a very long time, but it will hopefully make it a little bit easier for coaches, I think, to at least you're taking out the aspect of like, well, this coach offered me half a scholarship and this coach offered me a third of a scholarship. That's not going to be a thing anymore.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And that kind of blew me away when I found that out. I didn't even know that until maybe about 6 months ago when all this congressional stuff started coming through the woodwork. And I talked to a couple ADs, and matter of fact, Graham Rossini at ASU is the one that told me that like they only have 11.5 scholarships for baseball. And I was like, we say what now? I was like, are you for real? He's like, yeah, that's basically the norm around the country. So, one of the aspects to this new, $20 million cap is, how much of that is going to go to the Olympic sports. And Desiree Reed-Francois already said that, they are going to identify how to give more to those Olympic sports and non-rev sports, and baseball being able to be maxed out is definitely at the top of the list in addition to softball too. So like, I think these players who have put so much on the line for the program throughout the years and built this tradition of Arizona baseball, they've laid the groundwork to make sure that baseball and softball are important enough to be able to invest in at a high level. And I'm glad that, this school is going to do that.
Stop me if I'm incorrect here, but did you say Graham Rossini?
Yeah.
That's your boy?
That's not I didn't say he was my boy. I just said I had a conversation with him. Man, come on. Why are you putting words into my mouth?
I'm giving you the opportunity to say that you're like you're an agent. Like you're behind the scenes trying to take down Sun Devil athletics from the outside in. That's what I'm trying to set you up for.
I mean, I wish, but listen, I'm no Antonio Pierce. I'll tell you that much.
True. AP is the goat of being a double agent there. But we got more to talk about. We're going to talk about the Big 12 opponents being set for Arizona basketball. Who are they playing twice on next year's schedule? Plus, Arizona Wildcats just killing it in the NBA Finals and more right after the break here on the AZ Wildcats podcast. But first, guys, I want to tell you about our friends over at Circle K. We always talk about Circle K. It is an absolute staple of this great state. And you could, I talk about throwing a rock and hitting South Point from U of A. You could throw a rock from basically anywhere in the state of Arizona and hit a Circle K. That's how many of them there are. They're on every single corner. It is America's thirst stop. It is absolutely Arizona's thirst stop. And guys, if you're not a member of the Inner Circle Rewards program yet, you are leaving money on the table. You save 25 cents off per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. Then after that, you save 3 cents off per gallon every time you fill up at the tank, unless you become a premium member like me, like Kevin, like a lot of the people here at PHNX Sports, where you save 5 cents off per gallon every time that you fill up at the tank. And it is so easy to download. It takes 2 minutes. You download the app, you sign up on your phone by giving an email, setting a password, and that's that. That's all it takes. You're an Inner Circle Rewards member. Right after that is a very, very premium status to reach. You're going to want to download that app now and sign up. for great offers like 79-cent Polar Pops, 99-cent Frosters, 3 for $7 Ghost, 3 for $5 Gatorades, and save 30 cents off per gallon on fuel when you buy 3 Celsius or more. That's just a taste of what the Inner Circle can give you. So sign up now. Join the Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. Another company that you guys hear us talk about all the time on here, and for good reason, is Empire Today. And that's because Empire Today is going to help you save $350 off your brand new flooring. They are the experts in flooring. This is not just something they do. This is what they love. And that's because, they have all the bells and whistles that you'd want in a flooring company. This isn't, going to a big box store, finding one of the guys who's just walking around. Oh, could you help me with flooring? Yeah, I could. But, Jerry, when he gets a second back there, he's a little bit better with the flooring. No, Empire Today is full of all of the flooring experts. They're going to show up to your house, give you a free in-home estimate, use their virtual floor designer to show you exactly what that flooring that you want is going to look like in that brand new room of yours, so that you like it before you make such a big purchase. And another thing that's going to help you with such a big purchase is this $350 discount. Use promo code PHNX. You save $350 on that brand new flooring. So schedule a free in-home estimate today, because some things are just better at home, guys. PHNX listeners can receive $350 discount when using promo code PHNX. Yes, $350 discount with promo code PHNX. Restrictions apply. Visit EmpireToday/PHNX for full details. And you could do that anywhere in the country. Empire Today is a national brand. It is not just a Arizona company. But hit that like button on this video. If you guys are here, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. We are on the road to 50K subscribers, and we are ever so inching our way towards the top there, Saul. We're at 41K, and I know the Cardinals guys obviously just, hopped off PHNX Cardinals, the show, but they've set the goal. We need to hit 50K subscribers by the kickoff of football season, by week 1 of football season. Can we do it?
I think we could do it. Absolutely. Why not? Why not us?
And when I feel like once you start, it starts snowballing a little bit, these subscriber counts. So hopefully we find that. We got some Frosty takes we're going to bring up here in the near future. But first, Saul, I wanted to talk to you about just kind of the Big 12 opponents that were set today for Arizona basketball. Today they announced that obviously you play everybody in conference at least once. Some home, some away, but there is a group of schools that you will play twice, with one of those always being ASU. So without further ado, why don't I bring up those opponents? At home, Arizona will play West Virginia, Oklahoma State, Cincinnati, Iowa State, Kansas State, and Texas Tech. On the road, Arizona will play Houston, TCU, Baylor, Colorado, UCF, and Utah. And then home and away, the teams Arizona will be playing against twice this year: BYU, ASU, and Kansas. So, Saul, just looking at these opponents, I guess what kind of sticks out to you right away?
I mean, there's no leniency with the home and away between BYU and Kansas, isn't there? I mean, that's brutal.
Yeah,
because last year they had Texas Tech home and away, Iowa State home and away, BYU home and away, and Baylor home and away. Like that's insane. That's insane. And then you double down and go with BYU and Kansas and home and away. That's a tough draw, but I look at that schedule and I feel pretty good about it. Like, I don't feel like there's anybody that's overwhelming on that schedule. BYU is going to be tough. Like, BYU might be the favorite in the conference going in, just based on polls and stuff like that, just because of their performance in this year's tournament, but also adding the number 1 player in the country. But Arizona is going to be right there with them, and Kansas is always solid. Iowa State, you don't know with Iowa State, because you don't know what they're going to bring back, what they're going to have going into next year. But they're always a solid program.
Yeah.
And then Houston, obviously. Let me backtrack. Houston will be the number 1 in the conference. I don't know what I'm thinking. BYU might be number 2, and then Arizona might be number 3. So I think Arizona kind of roughly finds themselves in the same spot they were last year. It's just going to be about the development of their freshmen. And that's where, listen, that non-conference schedule should get them ready for the conference schedule, because both are always brutal. And that's the way we want it. Because we don't like the easy way at Arizona. Let's just go. Let's do it.
Yeah, you got to love the Tommy Lloyd method of like the loop method, almost, of just scheduling a grueling non-conference schedule to get you ready for a brutal, conference slate. And you're right about this, these opponents here. If I'm going to pull this back up one more time, but when you're just looking at each singular opponent in a vacuum, right? Like West Virginia, Oklahoma State, Cincinnati, Kansas State, like, I know they lost to Kansas State last year and they have some big time transfers coming in.
But K-State is kind of, actually K-State has kind of reloaded with Jerome Tang this year.
They have.
They've gotten some pretty solid dudes around the country to come in. I don't know where they got the NIL money from, but they found it somewhere. That NIL collective definitely ponied up, and K-State's going to be in the top 6 of this conference next year for sure.
Yeah, I mean Coleman Hawkins, I think alone his salary probably opened up enough money for everybody else. But
poor kid.
Yeah, that was very sad when he was crying at the end of the year.
And Tech owns Texas apparently with all the oil money that they have, so they're going to be legit as well. So yeah, I mean the conference from top to bottom, the conference is going to be tough. TCU's kind of reloaded. Baylor might take a little step back. Colorado's Colorado, UCF, Utah,
UCF's going to be terrible this year.
Yeah, they lost some dudes. So
Utah Utah kind of went Kevin and I have been talking about with Alex Jensen as their new coaching hire. They kind of went the BYU Kevin Young route. They got a longtime NBA assistant who has ties to the program, who has ties to the state, and they brought him in. So they're trying to kind of copy their rivals there. We'll see if it works out as well as BYU, but Kevin Young looks like a good coach, and that brings me to these home and away teams. It's just like, if you're going to, you got to get 2 home and away teams on this, you got pretty much about as bad of a draw as possible. BYU and Kansas on that list. I mean, that's about as tough as it gets. I have long said that I think Kansas is going to be a lot better next year just because they've had kind of 2 down years now. I know that that's somewhat been a factor of more teams, more basketball schools being added to this conference. But hear me out on this, Saul. Hunter Dickinson is a bum. And that guy can't play defense. And they couldn't defend for 2 straight years because they have this big oaf who can't move down in the post. Now they're going to have a mobile team. They're getting more athletic. I just can't see another year where Kansas is finishing like 4th, 5th place in this conference.
David,
I think they're going to be one of the top dogs again.
That's why I love you, David. Like, damn well if Hunter Dickinson was an Arizona Wildcat, you'd be like, he's the best big of all time.
Well, he reminds me a lot of Mo Krivas, and I don't like Mo Krivas. I don't like that style of big man, really. Like, I don't love the Umar Ballo style. I'm way more of like a mobile, like, I know Christian Koloko was huge, but he could get out on the perimeter and just, put his arms around you and there's nothing you could do about it. I like that like mobile style of big man. That's why I like Tobe Awaka a lot. And that's why I liked Henry Vasar as much as I did as well.
I think Kansas is on the cusp. I think Kansas is on the cusp of being, of faltering and kind of losing their steam, or getting right back to where they are. I know that sounds so like 50-50, like it's such a weak take, right? But hear me out. They lose Hunter Dickinson. They lose A.J. Adams. They lose Mayo. And who do they replace him with?
Well, Mayo's trying to get another year of eligibility right now.
But
they lost their point guard as well. I don't know why I'm forgetting his name. The guy with the headband who was there for a long time.
Yeah. So like between those guys, that's a lot of experience that is just gone. And they didn't really replace them with like high level players to a certain degree. So who are you expecting to step up? Like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm a big believer in Kansas. Like, but Kansas is always difficult at home. We saw that last year. So going on the road to Lawrence is always difficult. And Damon, I would encourage you to come with me next time because it's fun. It's a fun experience.
I would love to.
And I would encourage everybody to go because we remember last year, Tommy Lloyd had his little spiel about like the environment at KU, and a lot of people got upset. Come check it out for yourself. See
why it's different.
See why it's a little bit different. And I do think that Arizona will change the atmosphere this year. I do think that fans will take that to heart. I don't think they're going to forget. And I think they'll step up their level this year too. And they will make it a chaotic environment because they have no choice. So, I think that's going to be a tough. BYU is going to be tough. This whole conference is going to be tough. I'm excited for it as always because I'm just a hoop head and I love ball. And to go back to your point, DeJuan Harris, thank you, basketball and football guy, appreciate you.
Basketball and football guy, an absolute staple of this chat. But yeah, I mean, you have Darren Peterson coming in. He's the number one recruit. Like, I think Kansas could. I just think that they could find a new life with a new style and just trying to kind of play a little bit more modern brand of basketball.
I just want to say this: there was some little chatter under the surface when I was at KU and when I was at the Big 12 tournament that there was a possibility maybe that Bill Self might say, I think that's it. In my opinion, that's why I feel like they could be on the cusp of the fall off, because if they don't have as great a year next year or as good a year next year and get back to the tournament, or if they falter and don't make the tournament, it could be the end of an era. Because I don't know how many years Bill Self has left. He's proven everything. He doesn't have to prove anything else. He's one of the best coaches of all time in college basketball. So that's why I feel like they could be on the verge. Who knows? There's a lot to see there.
Yeah, and in regards to just going to Allen Fieldhouse too, my parents, they went to the what was it, like the Salim team game where they played in Lawrence, and I've heard great things, that it's just an unbelievable environment. Hopefully Arizona can get a W there again this season. But
I'm telling you,
it's just a tough schedule. I mean, there's really not many other ways that you could slice it. Like there's, no matter who Arizona gets, they're likely getting at least one opponent that is really good as a home and away opponent, like they did last year with multiple. And they're probably getting, some really good teams on the road as well. Like Baylor is a tough road environment. They play Baylor on the road. Even I think wasn't Colorado on the road environments? Like that's not an easy place to play.
No, Arizona's always struggled at Colorado.
Yeah, Utah road opponent as well. I mean, you got both of the altitude schools. Houston obviously is going to be a tough place to play. So it just, it's a tough conference. I think a lot of the maybe the more on paper easier opponents are maybe a little bit more on the home side. I do agree with you about the Kansas or the Iowa State thing of they lost a lot of players, and we'll see how good they are next year. But
at least in the away games, and again, no excuse for everybody, at least with the away games, 5 of those 6 are not off the beaten path, right? I consider Waco kind of off the beaten path because I know it's a bigger city, but I think listen, you're talking about Houston, big city, Fort Worth, big city, Denver in Boulder, big city, Orlando, and Salt Lake City. Those are 5 big cities on the road. So if you want to go travel and see a game, you have some opportunity. And Provo is only 100. It's kind of going from Phoenix to Tucson. It's kind of the same thing going from Salt Lake to Provo. Lawrence, you just fly into Kansas City. So everything here is reachable.
Yeah.
Everything here is reachable. So if you really want to go, you can go.
Yeah, that's honestly a good point. They did give Arizona, as far as I know, everybody calls the Big 12 a truck stop conference, right? As far as the cities to travel to, pretty much all of the bigger cities are on the road this year. So gives you a little bit more of ability, I guess, to kind of, bite the bullet and make that travel out there. Maybe go see UCF and maybe take a trip to Disney World, as I'm sure Saul Bookman has already looked into with the away schedule being set in this morning. But overall, you're always going to get a tough schedule when it comes to the Big 12. It's interesting to look at, but it's going to be it's what we expect. And this is a team that's going to play, probably the most difficult non-con in the entire country. Then they're going to go play in the best country in college, or the best conference in college basketball. In the conference part of their slate. So
I'm excited.
It is going to be extremely exciting. Lots of high level basketball being played. Another situation where you could see a record be a little bit lower than maybe you're used to as an Arizona fan at a certain point in the season. And then, of course, in Tucson, that's when the panic buttons come out. Are we even going to make the tournament this year? We're 10-9. And then, of course, they leave it up to very little doubt in the world that they're going to make the tournament.
I think that this year is going to be very unique. I think the non-conference might almost mirror last year. I could see them losing more games than you expect them to. I could also see them winning more games than you expect them to. How much is that the loss of Krivas and Love and KJ going to affect this team? I feel like it'll be a slight drop off at the beginning, but I think at the end, the trio of freshmen that will come in that will have a significant role to play, I think they'll actually elevate it. And then you add the transfer, was it Karakov or Ivan.
Karchenkov.
Sorry.
Oh my God, Saul!
Yeah,
I was
I'm all
going
over the place
through
with
it with Karchenkov when the first day he committed.
Yeah. So I think with those four, like I could see them at the end of the year elevating Arizona to higher than where they were last year, because I don't feel like this group of freshmen is going to have a steep drop off. But there's always a learning curve there. You have to give them some room. When they go up against Florida, the defending national champion, even though they'll be missing some pieces too that didn't play on the national championship team, they're still a national championship team. They've weathered the storm. They beat Houston. And so you got to learn how to win. And I think freshmen at this level, it takes a little bit of time. Now, they come out and beat Florida game 1, all hell will break loose, and everything I just said is out the window, because you don't know where they're going to go after that, because they're going to be riding high and they're going to feel like they're one of the best teams in the country because they just beat the defending national champion in game number 1. So the sky's the limit, man.
It does feel like it's a very kind of up in the air with this team, especially early in the season, because they have the elite freshmen, right? You don't know exactly what you're getting. You don't know if there's going to be, how steep the learning curve is going to be, right? There will be a learning curve. How steep will it be? And you could see a situation where they do have a similar record coming out of non-conference, but I think that their ceiling would still be higher than last year's roster. Even if their floor is a little bit lower with the unknowns of bringing in the freshmen, I just think that those high-level talents, like Arizona didn't have those guys last year. And now you bring in a Koa Pete and you bring in a Braden Burries, like those are NBA players. And last year, it was a little bit more of like Caleb Love, if he has a really good season, maybe he could sneak his way into the NBA. Or Carter Bryant, he's a really good player and he has a lot of potential, but he's the 7th man on this team. So it's not like he's like the most impactful player on the floor. So it's a little different, I think. Like the big minutes getters on this team in large part are going to be guys that you expect to be like lottery picks almost.
My biggest hesitation early on in the year is, can Krivas do enough to hold to hold water as these freshmen continue to learn? Because if he's a detriment to the team, then you got more problems than you have answers at that point, until these freshmen kind of get up to speed. But if Krivas and Bradley, Awaka, Del Orso can kind of, just hold water, let these freshmen learn. And then the freshmen, I feel like the typical freshman way is like one of them's going to pop off every game. Like that's how I feel. Like you just don't know which one it is, but can the other 4 be consistent enough just to get you to tread water, and then let the freshman that's hot that night take you over the top? Can that happen? I don't know. Hopefully it will, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Krivas is the big X factor, in my opinion, at least at the start of next season, just because I know he's going to get a big share of the minutes at that center rotation spot. I know Tobe Awaka. I know what he brings to the table, and that's a very steady, high floor, elite rebounding player, right? And so I think Krivas has to be different than that. He has to give you some points out of that position, and
he's got to be dominant.
Yeah,
he's got to be dominant. This is you've had too many years. You got to be dominant now.
And Tommy's believed a lot in him. Tommy has invested a lot into him. It's time to kind of show that investment off. But I mentioned Carter Bryant to you. Carter Bryant, this is a little bit off the cuff here, Saul, but he did get an NBA draft green room invite. Here are the other players here on the list that received said invite. And it starts off with obviously Cooper Flagg, the 2 Rutgers guys, and Harper and Bailey. You got VJ Edgecombe, who Arizona fans are familiar with, Trey Johnson out of Texas. 2 more Duke players in Malawak and Knipple from Duke, Jeremiah Fears out of Michigan State, Asa Newell out of Georgia, Derek Queen out of Maryland, Igor Demon out of BYU, and Kasparis, who I won't say is Kasparis J out of Illinois. Hell yeah, Saul. That's why we bring you onto the show, my guy. But Carter Bryant in a very elite group of 13 that received the first wave of NBA draft green room invites. So I guess, Saul, my question that I brought to yesterday's show with Erica was, do you think that him receiving this invite is indicative that he's going to be like kind of a lock for that lottery / right outside the lottery range, like maybe where Dalen Terry ended up at 18 for the Chicago Bulls?
1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. I don't think Carter Bryant jumps into the draft if he doesn't firmly believe he's in the top 15. Like I would be shocked if he wasn't a top 15 draft pick. So I think he'll end up being a lottery pick, which is top 14. And so that's where I'm at. You don't invite somebody to the green room if you think they're on the fringe. And Carter Bryant is not on the fringe. I think the feedback he's gotten has been very well received. I think he's taken that to heart. He made a smart choice in going, and I've said that you go if you're a lottery pick. If you know you're going to be a lottery pick, you don't F around, you go. Because the resources and the investment the team is going to make in you is far different than just your normal other first-round draft pick or second-round draft pick. And that's the only reason why he should have gone, because there were some holes in his game that he had to shore up. I think athletically, he's where all these guys are at. I think athletically, he can handle it. But the two weaknesses in his game were defensive awareness and then his ball handling. Those are the two things that he needed to improve to get to where he wants to go in the NBA. So initially, he's going to be a 3-and-D player. Well, if you're that athletically inclined and you can shoot the three from a high percentage, which he did in college, and you can play defense at a high level in the NBA man-to-man, which he can, and he has proven that he was a good enough defender one-on-one, I think that minimizes the risk for an NBA franchise, and that's why I think a lot of teams are looking very high on Carter Bryant, because they see the upside being very significant.
Yeah, and I think on top of that, you match that upside athletically with the personality. And that's where teams feel comfortable making that investment is you obviously have a kid that, he has not even come close to reaching his ceiling as a player. He's been a much more of a rotational piece, more of a role player than a star. Even at times during AAU, I was talking with Erica yesterday in that Darius Wobbington article, that I was reading from, I think about a year and a half ago now, where they were talking about just kind of his development as a freshman when he was first kind of popping on the scene. They put an insert in there about Carter Bryant, and just they talked about his lack of they perceived it as lack of intensity and lack of focus on the game. I think that they were in the right ballpark, but that they miscalculated what it truly was, which is he's just a little bit passive. He's just a little bit of a passive player, and he needs to, I think, get that killer instinct a little bit more, want the ball in his hands a little bit more. And that's really what Carter Bryant needs to, that mental hurdle that he needs to reach out of. I don't think that, obviously, like, we saw the intensity when he's, putting down a dunk, two hands, and he's screaming afterwards. Like, I don't question his will to win, his want to win, like, none of that. What I question is, does he want the ball in his hands in a big moment? And I think that that's where his personality of a guy that is, takes constructive criticism, wanted to play for Tommy Lloyd despite knowing that he might be coming off the bench as a freshman, even being a very blue chip prospect. I think that's where you can make the investment in Carter Bryant and feel very comfortable doing so.
Well, he's such an intelligent kid. Mm-hmm. Like I said this when I started to get the feeling that maybe there was a likelihood he might go. I was like, his interviews, I know, were better than most, mm-hmm. because he's such an intelligent kid. He can speak so clearly. He's very well thought out. He takes his time. He doesn't rush his answers. Like, he's a methodical player, and I love that about him. And that's why I think he is ultimately going to succeed at a high level. I'm going to address one more thing. Rao in the chat said, Saul, weren't you super high on Aiden? You were so wrong. How can you speak with such confidence in your scouting?
I was talking about that this morning with Aiden.
Listen, number one, we're talking about a first-team All-American, Pac-12 Player of the Year, a guy that looked dominant as all hell against, in the Pac-12 and against other foes, Alabama, and then, they faltered against Buffalo, but name an Arizona team that hasn't faltered in the first round ever before, right? Come on. And we've had Damon Stoudemire faltered in the first round before. Like it's just whatever, right? Now, I didn't know that once he got the bag, like, a lot of that motivation was just going to hit to thin air. I had no idea. But he's still a Wildcat, and we're not going to disparage old Wildcats.
Saul, DeAndre Ayton was a quality starter on a championship caliber team. To say that you missed your evaluation on that, I think, is egregious. Like, that's what I can't with Suns fans in Ayton. It's like, I just feel like I'm talking about something different than them. Like, do we erase all the memories of that NBA Finals run where he was incredibly impactful at that center position, the Valley Oop? Like, you can't just throw all of that stuff away. Yeah, it ended poorly, but like, I don't think it's fair to even call DeAndre Ayton a bust. I think that obviously you want Luka Doncic, you want Trae Young in that draft, but you want to see a bust? Look one pick further. Marvin Bagley was the 2nd overall pick by the Sacramento Kings, 1 spot before Luka Doncic. That is not a quality
Actually,
NBA basketball
3 spots
player.
before Luka Doncic, because Luka Doncic didn't even get drafted 3rd. He got drafted 5th by the Atlanta Hawks and then got traded to the Dallas Mavericks. So 3 other teams also missed on them, and they had no excuse. They didn't have a surefire number 1 pick to go with. Trae Young's great, but Luka Doncic is Luka Doncic. Now, in hindsight, yeah, Luka would have been the pick, but who knows?
It's easy
You
to
never
say
know
that
how
now.
this all goes.
Yeah, it's easy to say that now. I just feel like if you have a guy, a center who's averaging, giving you about 18 and 10 on a team that goes to the finals, playing good defense and at the same time, like, you can't disparage that pick, but whatever.
If Ayton was picked number 5 instead of number 1, I don't think we're talking about this at all.
Not a chance.
But,
not a chance.
Listen, the Suns have been bypassed multiple times for the number 1 pick. They have had their chances, and they've never gotten the number 1 pick. So the one year that they get them, they think, okay, they had this kind of difficult choice. They went with the Ayton, and it didn't work out. But they did get to the finals. They were 2 wins away from winning a championship, and he had his moments, but he also had bad moments, and that's why he's not here. So it is what it is.
We got some Frosty takes. That could be a Frosty take. But we got some more Frosty takes from our guy Saul Bookman that we're going to get to right around the corner here on the AZ Wildcats podcast. Making the bullpen switch here because I'm talking about our friends at Branded Bills. Branded Bills, they got a brand new promo code for us. So yesterday I tried to correct myself and say, no, that's not 15% like the ad copy says. Nope, Branded Bills actually upped their offer for PHNX listeners and is giving Arizona fans the chance to get in on the campus collection, Saul. I am wearing one of the fine campus collection hats right now with the state flag outline because we own this state. And they have plenty of other great options as well. If you use promo code BBPHNX, you can save 15% off on that first order. So whether it's a truck or a fitted, a beanie, even a t-shirt, Branded Bills, they make all of the above. They do custom headwear and apparel. We have some custom PHNX stuff that's really, really cool that you see us wearing all the time around here. And it is their local company out of Mesa. They love their Arizona sports teams. They love their Cats. And go check out that campus collection. Go check out the bookstore. U of A bookstore has a special Branded Bills campus collection that's really cool. So, you're going to want to get in on that. Another company that you're going to want to get in on is our friends at Gila River Resorts and Casino. I love Gila River. It is the absolute best place to take a staycation. It's the best place to just hang out if you need a place to hang out. And you can obviously catch any thrilling sport event up at their BetMGM Sportsbook. It's the biggest sportsbook in the state of Arizona. Whether it's NBA playoffs, UFC, PGA Championship, US Open going on right now. French Open just happened, Indy 500 just happened. Like any of that stuff, they're playing it over at the sportsbook. They also have their Upper Deck Kitchen and Bar. They got Shula's Prime Steakhouse. They have, all sorts of fine dining options all the way down to the lower scale, a little bit more affordable for you. But they also have their live table games. They have everything at Gila River Resorts and Casinos, anything that your heart desires. Concerts, the pool area, the cabana. It's so much fun. We love going over there. We love hanging out. I'm going to make a boys trip with my guy Derek pretty soon here. And we're just going to get nasty. Maybe play some roulette. You never know. It's just going to get weird. But you do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for more details. And now, without further ado, Saul, we do have a frosty cold take from you, my guy. I'll preface it by saying this, Saul. This was a pre-football season take.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure almost every Arizona fan could give you a frosty take from the preseason football days, right? Like there wasn't a lot of Arizona fans out here who were saying like, we're going to take a big step back with Brent Brennan in this season.
Listen, I had to dig deep for this one. Because I couldn't figure out what shows I was on last year.
Yeah.
So I was like, I remember the one show I was on back here. And so I went there and I knew it was a prediction show. And I was like, I'm sure I had a bad prediction. And man, was that show full of bad predictions. The only thing I got right, unfortunately, was the fact that I did say, I was like, it's funny, nobody's really talking about ASU. And sometimes that team that nobody talks about, good or bad, like they weren't even part of the conversation for the Big 12. Like before we got to media day, nobody talked about them. Nobody mentioned them. It was like they were an afterthought. I was like, typically those are the teams that surprise everybody because nobody talked about them. And then sure enough, but I said that they, if they won 5 wins or 6 wins and they got to a bowl game, that's a tremendous year. And they obviously did way better than that. So that was the only thing I got right. Outside of that, this was my awful prediction. If Noah Fifita can throw for 4,500 yards, which I think is doable, I think he's going to set insane records this year because I think the talent around him will dictate that. I felt like the talent was there.
It did.
I felt like the talent around him was there. I thought Kean Burnett was going to have a bigger year. Obviously, losing JCM hurt. Ja'Cory Cross-Game that hurt. That was actually way bigger than I think any of us thought.
Nobody will remember that when they look back on this season, but we win that Texas Tech game with JCM. And if we win that Texas Tech game, we're 2-0 in conference, with the Kansas State game being the one loss out of conference, and you're 4-1 on the season. And you never know. I mean, I'm not saying that this Arizona team's running the table, making the Big 12 championship, but you're probably making a bowl game at 4-1, especially with Houston on the schedule.
Yeah, you would hope so. I thought the receiving core was going to be much better than it was. Like everything just fell off. And I should have seen the writing on the wall a little bit because of that. Listen, we got 39 points to freaking New Mexico. That was kind of a red flag. Like, is this defense really going to be as good as it is? And it was not. And everything just kind of fell apart. Nothing matched up. So, I thought Noah was going to be electric, and he slid off a little bit. But I do have faith in my guy. And listen, I went to Justin Spears' golf tournament. The Spears Classic that he does every year, and he does it for Easter Seals, tremendous organization, doing a lot of great work. Noah Fifita was there. He was with his family, and they played. Noah, I don't want to say it because it was kind of in that moment. You had to be there to be part of that moment, so I'm not going to say, but he did make a prediction that would blow everybody's socks off, and I'm here for it. I think he has a lot of confidence in this season. I have confidence in him. Do I think 4,500 yards? Probably not. But I do think if he cleans up some of those bad tendencies that he had because the offensive line was a little erratic last year, I think if he shores that up, I think he's going to be all right. And I think, 3,000 yards is not crazy to think of if everything else is suited. Now, he lost T-Mac. That's going to hurt. But I think if everything else is the way that this team is trying to be structured and with a better offensive coordinator, I think they're going to be cooking with grease.
Yeah, and that's the big thing for me. I pound that drum all day long on this podcast is the offensive coordinator situation. That's what we couldn't account for as fans. We weren't privy to, just how much Dino Babers was putting into the Syracuse game planning when he was the head coach over there. It's pretty obvious he had close to zero, jurisdiction over I don't want to say the game planning, but for sure the play calling, because what we watched last season was abhorrent from a play calling standpoint.
Dude, I watched Dino Babers' offense at Syracuse, and I think the thing that got Dino Babers really ultimately in trouble is that Noah Fifita is not a big quarterback. So the running element was kind of taken out. And it's like Dino Babers didn't know what else to do outside of that. Because if you watch Syracuse's offense, a lot of 4 or 5 wide sets or single back formations, quarterback keepers a lot of times. Like the quarterback was just as much a part of the running game as everybody else was. And if you look at Brennan's offense at San Jose State, there was so much creativity, especially with tight ends. And then they got here and like all that creativity just went out the window. There was like no creativity. I was stunned. I didn't understand what I was watching because it was nothing like what I saw that he had over at San Jose State. And so I was confused as all hell. I think we all were. I think they're going to go back to that and they're going to clean a lot of that up and fix a lot of that. So at least that's my hope. I'm optimistic about this season. I'm not saying that they're going to go to, the Rose Bowl or anything like that or college football playoff, but I think they'll be better than they were last year.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, if you look at Noah's stats, like that I put on that graphic, he threw close to 3,000 yards, 18 touchdowns, 12 picks. Obviously, the eye test was pretty bad if you watched Arizona football last season. But just looking at those statistics, when you compare him to quarterbacks that people are really high on going into this next season, it's he's not that far out of the ballpark on, and that's his floor of a season. That was Noah Fifita's. Like, I can't envision a world where he plays a worse season than he did last year. He still gave you, 18 to 12 touchdown interception ratio. It's a 3-2 ratio. It's not good, but it's not like the most abhorrent thing I've ever heard. The completion percentage was the big drop off. He had a 70% completion percentage under Jed Fish. He dropped to 60.5% under Dino Babers, and that needs to improve next season.
He threw 100 more passes than he did the year prior and only had 100 more yards. That's a problem. That's a significant problem. But the guy was running for his life. He kind of did a little Shedeur Sanders impersonation from time to time where he just kept dropping back. And before you know it, that 5 or 10 yard dig route becomes 20 to 25 yard dig route. And it's impossible. And so that's the thing. Those are the things that he's going to clean up. I know he's been working his off to try and shore those things up. And I have confidence in Noah. The one thing about Noah that I will always, and it's the same thing with Carter, right? Carter Bryant. Like, they're just good dudes. And you want them to win. You want them to succeed. They have a heart that cares about more than just their own personal performance. They care about the performance of those who they're responsible for. And that's what I love to see. And so I'm optimistic about Noah Fifita this year.
Yeah, and that segment, of course, was sponsored by our friends at Wendy's for Frosty Cold Takes. Wendy's is putting a twist on classic.
I feel like if I'm going to get put on blast, I should at least have. I should have a Frosty here in my hand.
I'm with you, Saul. And you know what? This is what we got going on. We got GM Espo, having to do the grunt work around here because no one else is paying attention.
Nobody's here for the team.
It's disgusting.
Come on, man. Step up, everyone.
Wendy's is putting a twist on a classic with all new Frosty flavors. Find your new favorite flavor and clock in for sweet treat time anytime, including midnight or later or fresh on a classic. Got to be Wendy's at participating U.S. Wendy's. Hours may vary by location. Let's get my guy Saul a nice
look at this.
Frosty.
Oh, so wait. Which one is this?
Strawberry.
Is this the Espo one?
I don't.
You had your own flavor.
I don't know. This might be the
strawberry. I appreciate you, sir. The strawberry one.
Thank you, Espo. I got a nice little fudge, hot
treat.
Fudge. Yeah.
I can't wait to put it in my car, let it melt a little bit, and then eat it.
Yep. Frosty Cold Takes. You got to heat them up a little bit, Saul. But I think as far as Noah Fifita goes, there's the Arizona. He will be a big portion of the success of next season. How well Noah Fifita does. Obviously, he's the quarterback of the team, but I just think that we saw his floor last year. Now we have a concise game plan. We know what we're trying to do. I don't think this offensive line is going to be very good again. I think it's probably going to be worse than it was last year, just given the fact that you don't have Josh Baker and Jonas Avenaya on the team anymore. But that being said, I think that Seth Dagey is the type of coach where he game plans around the talent that he has. He sees that. He has air raid philosophy from his inception in college football under Mike Leach. And I think he's probably going to use that and say, you know what, we're running some no huddle. We're running quick passes at the line of scrimmage, but we're doing things that are not just obvious to the other team, obvious to the defense. We're trying to spread them out horizontally and make them make tackles and whatnot. And I think that this system is going to be really, really good for Noah Fifita just in improving his last year's season.
I totally agree. I want to say this about Brett Brennan. I think there was an element of giddiness and joy about getting essentially your dream job. And I think that because of that and because of the talent and where they went the year before, there was a little bit of a complacency factor there. And I think that if you got Brett Brennan behind closed doors and you talk to him, I think that he would feel like he didn't do enough last year to get this team prepared to where they needed to be. But now he knows, and he shored up his staff. He fixed the problems. He tweaked it. And now I feel like he's going to revert back to who he was at San Jose State, who he was when he came up through the coaching circles, especially when he started off, as a grad assistant over here at U of A, and then adding guys like Seth Dagey, Miller, to your staff to kind of shore up that offensive side. I think that there's a reason why Keon Burnett also came back. Like, I feel like he looked at it and he felt like, if I'm going to succeed, I'm going to succeed with this guy because I feel like he's going to be able to get the most out of me. And schematically, I'm going to be put in way better positions than I was the year before. So I'm excited. I'm cautiously optimistic, as always, because Arizona football is definitely like a box of chocolates. You don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, actually, I feel like you know that you're not going to get what you expect. That's really what because every time that there's expectations on this program, it's an absolute disaster of a season.
It is true.
But yeah, I mean, I think, as far as Fifita is concerned, I just have so much confidence in Seth Dagey, and maybe it's slightly unearned given the fact that he hasn't coached a single football game yet. But the way that guy talks, he's so inspiring, and I feel like his he said it to us like when we interviewed him, like his first portion of business at Arizona was get Noah Fifita to come back to this program because he feels like that's the perfect quarterback for his system. He recruited him a little bit when he was at USC. Same thing with why Keon Burnett came back, because he had a previous relationship with Seth Dagey from when he was committed to USC, and Seth Dagey was the tight ends coach and got him to commit there. So, Keon Burnett turned around and said, I'm leaving my friends behind. I'm leaving the program I've spent 4 years at. And, now I'm going to be able to play with the coach that I originally committed to because I believed in him so much. So I just think that this offense is going to be a lot better next year. I could see a world where the defense is pretty rough. But I think this team will be, by all intents and purposes, fun to watch, at least way more fun than last year was, because it's way more of an unknown. I think that, it's kind of a blank slate. And they're in a way, I know that there's pressure on Brent Brennan, but they're almost playing with like we don't have expectations put on us, so why should we go out there and feel like we have to be this team that is going to, make the college football playoff like they probably did last year?
1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. I totally agree with you. I can't wait also to, obviously, I'm sure you've talked about this before, but Arizona football is going to go undefeated in EA college football for me, because I'm excited to play that. Why am I excited to see Brett Brennan, Gonzalez, and Dagey on the sideline? I don't know why.
Brett Brennan needs a lay, right?
Dude, like, I was so pumped when I saw that all those guys were going to be on the game. I was like, what? The assistant coaches are going to be in the game? That's dope as hell. So at least I know I have full control over that.
Yeah, we were talking about making Seth Dagey the long-term coach of this program. Me and Kevin when they made that announcement.
I also should say this. This should have been a precursor, and I probably should have mentioned this earlier in the year. I should have known Arizona was about to have a bad year, because I went to the first game, and so my in-laws did live in Texas. They're from Tucson. They moved to Texas when they retired, but then they sold their ranch, and they came back and moved back to Tucson. And Pops, he wanted to go to a game, took him to a game, and unfortunately, I don't know why this happened. So I'm sitting with my kids. My wife and my father-in-law are coming back from the concession stand. And they get to like 2 rows below us because all the seats are a little bit more open, right? My wife decides that she's gonna just step up on the 2 bleachers and come up instead of just coming down the stairs. My father-in-law, a little older, not as mobile, not as flexible.
Yeah,
he took a step up, and I could see it. I could see it in his eyes, and I reached out to try and grab him, and it was too late, and he fell flat back.
Oh.
And a shout out to my guy. His wife was sitting there, and he fell on top of her, and she broke his fall. I'm telling you, folks, if she wasn't there, he might not be here, because it was that, like, he's an older guy, and when you have a severe fall like that on bleachers and concrete, it could have been catastrophic. But luckily, just a little bit of bruising. He was fine. He watched the rest of the game. His back hurt a little bit, but he was fine. Shout out to those people.
That's Arizona family right there.
Arizona family. And it was so great is the guy followed me on Instagram, hit me up, and was just like, hey, man, that was my wife that broke your dad's fall. And I was just like, dude, so much love to your wife. I appreciate you. I'm going to say his name by the end of the show. I got to look it up in the DMs. But it was phenomenal. But that should have been a precursor. Like, this is not a great start to the season.
This is an absolute disaster. Well, Saul, real quick before we get out of here, I just want to round out this talk with a little bit of NBA Finals. I know you're such a big hoops fan, and obviously you had a couple Wildcats, shine and show out last night, right? So, leading scorer of the game, Bennedict Mathurin. Here are his Game 3 NBA Finals statistics. He scored 27 points on 9 of 12 shooting, was a plus 16 in that box score. In only 22 minutes of play there. So 27 points in 22 minutes. becomes the third player to ever in the NBA Finals score 25-plus points off the bench, joining Jason Terry
Ooh.
and Manu Ginobili, who you might have you might remember as being a decent little six-man there.
He's all right.
Yeah, but then you have TJ McConnell later in the game, or not later in the game, I should say, but very similarly, first player in NBA history to record 5 steals and 5 assists off the bench in an NBA Finals. I always say it all the time, Saul, like Arizona might not be producing those superstar James Harden type players, if that's where we're going, because that's the comparison that always gets made by idiots in Tempe. But Arizona produces winning basketball players. Every single finals for the last 14 years has featured an Arizona Wildcat. And in large part of those 14 finals, I'd say 95% of those, an Arizona Wildcat is playing a very prominent role in that in that finals. You have Andre Iguodala, you got DeAndre Ayton, you have TJ McConnell, Ben Mathurin this year. It's the list goes on and on and on. And it's just, I feel like this program, they might not have a bunch of that high level upper echelon talent when it comes to the NBA, but I'll tell you what they do have. And that's guys that, are willing to sacrifice what it takes to win. Look at a guy like Aaron Gordon. Perfect example.
Yeah, no, I absolutely. TJ McConnell made a phenomenal play last night after making a spin move. He missed the bucket, but somebody got the putback and then immediately jumps up on the inbounds pass, steals it, and gets another bucket. They were down by 4. It was a 4-point swing. And to me, that changed the entire momentum right there in the game, because I think it was about 7-8 minutes left to go in that game. And that's when the Pacers kind of started taking off and kind of extended that lead. TJ McConnell has been a spark plug everywhere he has gone. He is just that dude. He's been that dude. He will forever be that dude. There's a reason why we love him so much, because he represents us. He represents the University of Arizona as best as you possibly can. It's so cool to see that not only him thriving in the NBA, but also his sister playing for the Mercury. Unfortunately, she got injured, but it's phenomenal. And those guys, Ben Mathurin's always been that dude. He just, sometimes it takes a little bit of time, but he could drop buckets on anybody's head. We've seen him do it dozens of times in college. He's done it in the NBA multiple times, but now he gets the chance to do it in the finals, and everybody starts to realize, like, oh yeah, ain't that the dude that yacked all over homie from TCU the other year?
Eddie Lampkin.
Eddie Lampkin. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's him. Yeah, he will forever be him. And shout out to Tommy Lloyd for pulling that out of him.
Yeah, and when in regards to our Carter Bryant conversation, I feel like that's the guy that, like, I know that that's like the pinnacle of it, but like, you want to talk about a killer, Bennedict Mathurin. Like, that guy wants the ball in his hands every big moment, and you can see it. Coming off the bench, putting up 27. It hasn't been like maybe the star-studded career that a lot of us thought that Ben Mathurin might have when he gets to the league. I think it's still early, and he has the opportunity to.
He's only 22.
100%. But I will say that, I think that the team that he plays on, kind of buffers it to an extent, just because they have such a deep rotation of guards and wing scorers and whatnot. Like, and that's what makes the Pacers so good, is that these guys are getting a little tired, fresh legs of equally caliber players, right? And so that's why, maybe Mathurin's stats don't look as good as maybe we would have anticipated going into the league, but I think that he still has that potential to reach that upper echelon of NBA player, 20-point per game scorer type of guy, because I just believe in his ability to score from all 3 levels, his athleticism, his mentality. Like, he has all of the above, and it's really cool to see Arizona Wildcats like show out in these NBA finals year after year. I mentioned Aaron Gordon, like another perfect example of a guy who was what was he, like the 4th overall pick by the Magic?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't pan out as a star level player, but he finds a new home, and in that first stop of finding a new home, he's just like, what can I do to help this team win? Right. What can I do to be the glue guy that makes this thing work, right? And now he's Mr. Nugget. Like, now he's literally Mr. Nugget. So I just feel like it's such an encapsulation of what Arizona basketball produces, and it's cool to watch it year after year. But go Pacers.
I will say this in regards to Arizona basketball, and some of those players you mentioned were Sean Miller players. when you look at Aaron Gordon, like the definition of like, I'm just not going to give up. I'm going to continue to do what I need to do. And sometimes you just need to change the scenery and a better staff and a better system in order to thrive. And Aaron Gordon obviously found himself in there. TJ McConnell, I mean, listen, if there's a grit and grimy kind of player, he's the guy. He's the picture of that. And both those guys, to think that those guys were on the same team and couldn't get to the Final Four just makes me want to throw up. It really makes me want to throw up because, like, if anybody deserved to go to the Final Four, it was definitely TJ McConnell and Nick Johnson. Those three guys, like, it just – I always want to cry every single time I think about it because I feel like that's the one team that I will forever remember and feel like that should have happened. Like, I felt like that was their birthright. And it – oh, man.
Both of those years, sucks. 14 and 15.
But if they can beat a Sun Devil in the finals, I'll be just fine.
True. You know, that's the thing. Like, you know, if the Thunder come back in this finals, that ASU fans are going to turn that into like, we get another one over them. And you're like, what? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like that. I always think it's so funny how we like always, when you're talking with ASU fans, they're like, well, we have more NFL draft picks. And you're like, that's really cool, man. Like
good for you.
Yeah, it's the stuff that doesn't really have any impact on the actual athletic department that we're talking about that makes me laugh. But
like if you're a perennial winner, won 8, 9, 10 games every single year, and you had more draft picks, that's what we're talking about. But you're not. Like, you're not. You have a lot of draft picks, cool. Like, we have a lot of draft picks, but we also win a lot.
James Harden, did you know, bro, that James Harden has more All-Star appearances than all the Arizona Wildcats in the league combined? Awesome. You guys must have a freaking stellar basketball program. Chirp, chirp, chirp. Yeah, that's always my favorite argument. But it's been fun to watch. And this finals, you know, despite, you know, people taking their shots with it being a small market finals, has been a lot of fun thus far. And you're looking at two teams that are probably the two deepest teams in the NBA, and that's why they made it to the spot that they made it in. And TJ McConnell and Ben Mathurin are huge parts of that, coming off the bench for the Pacers and making a huge impact. So we'll keep you monitored when it comes to your league cats moving forward here in the finals. But that's going to do it for us today, Saul. Do you have anything else before we get out of here?
No, man. Appreciate you having me on. It was fun. Miss talking Wildcats, and I'm excited for basketball season because that's when McHale Madness will come back. But in the meantime, you know, I'm around when you need me.
Yep. We're going to have Saul Bookman on a few times later this month with Kevin going on another vacation.
Man, how many days of vacation does Kevin take? He takes more vacation days than I do.
I know. That's crazy, right?
He just started like 6 months ago.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, how did you build up all this vacation time? But yeah, that's going to do it.
That vacation policy must be really good at All City.
Solid. It's solid. That's it. What's funny, Saul, is I'm being a little facetious because I went on 2 vacations in the span of 3 weeks, and everybody was saying the exact same things about me. How much vacation time do you have, Damon? Oh, I guess he's never coming back to the show. So now I'm giving it right back to Kevin because I have to.
Are you and Kevin going to be out in Vegas November 3rd for the season opener in Vegas?
That would sure be fun. We could definitely look into that. That would be electric.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
I'm gonna be there.
I know you will be. I mean, this is a man right here in Saul Bookman that, you know, he's traveling around the country for his Wildcats. It means everything.
It does.
And you got to respect that. Also, check out Saul's shirt. He's got that beautiful Kyler plus MHJ equals 6T. Check out the All City store. Check out the Go PHNX locker. We got all kinds of U of A gear on there as well. We got the loyalty t-shirt, the BTFD t-shirt in that cactus logo that's so beautiful. And, you know, of course, all those Marvin Harrison Jr. t-shirts, Cardinals, Suns, D-backs, you name it, man.
We need to get a yoked Marvin Harrison shirt.
Yeah, we do. It's funny enough, people were talking about that. The second that happened, I was co-hosting that day. And, you know, there were people in the chat who were like, we need a Marvin flexing shirt that says like armed and dangerous or something like that. And I was like, that could play. But of course, we'll keep you, you know, updated when it comes to all of our merch as well, you know, and things that are going on in the world of Arizona sports. That's going to do it for the AZ Wildcats podcast today, guys. Please drop a like on this video. It helps us out so much. Helps Kevin get some rest on vacation because he texted me the other night. He's like, I'm still not sleeping because the like numbers weren't good enough. So He's still checking it despite being on vacation. Run those likes up, people. Subscribe to the channel, Road to 50K. You can follow me at Damon Dog. That's DAWG. You can follow our account at PHNX_Wildcats. And you can follow my guy Saul Bookman at Saul_Bookman. Thank you so much for joining us today, Saul. We really appreciate it. We'll see you later this month. And until then, peace out, bear down, and go Cats.
We all silly like the mayor.